So I'm very excited to move now to a concert of music of composers. In many ways, I think this is kind of a musical portrait of a vanished city. These composers thrived in a very different time, in the 70s, 80s, again, into the early 90s, almost exclusively in the East Village, a little bit in the Village. Ben Weber defected to Uptown for the last several decades of his life. But at any rate, it's pretty safe to say these were all Village creatures at one time or another in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And the first thing that we're going to hear is Piano Sonata Number 2. The composer is Tui St. George Tucker. I'm really immensely pleased to have learned about her music. I did not know about her music until Franco Terry told me about her, and Roger. And this project has been so fascinating to me on a personal level to get to know these composers and to have read the books of our panelists and to really delve into this subject. Without further ado, Roger Trefus will now play Piano Sonata Number 2, subtitled Peyote Sonata by Tui St. George Tucker. It's a performance of Piano Sonata Number 2, subtitled Peyote Sonata by composer Tui St. George Tucker. And we heard Roger Dreyfus perform. Roger, great performance. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we can be getting Chaley and James on stage while I'm talking to Roger. So just quickly, that piece, I mean, to Frank's point, this is a downtown composer. There's a lot of density. I hear a lot of jazz, it sounds like to me.
Yes.
There's even some early music. Tell me about the influences of this piece.
Of Tui's influences?
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing is this piece is not from the 70s, it's from the 50s. It was written in 1952, possibly 54, I'm not sure, but it's unbelievably ahead of its time, I think, in the way it combines so many elements. Tui was a virtuoso Baroque recorder player. She also was very much part of the downtown world of Lamont Young, Jackson McLough, people like that. And obviously went to a lot of jazz as well. I mean, so she also, I studied the piece with Greta Sultan, Tui's very good friend who Tui wrote the piece for. I played it for Tui, and I never actually asked Tui, I mean, I knew it was called the Peyote Sonata because it was in some way connected to an experience of taking peyote, but I never really asked her any direct questions about that, and I've been thinking about that a lot, and I think that all of these time shifts that happen in this piece have something to do with that kind of combination of places and times that I've never taken peyote, but that you can experience in that kind of a mystical, or whatever you want to call it, experience. And I also think that even these combinations of, the beginning sounds like a little like Thelonious Monk to me. Then you have these very complicated and dissonant chords and rhythms, and then you have like a Bach fugue, which comes out of that. I also think, to some extent, with Greta in mind, Greta Sultan was the first person to play the Goldberg Variations without repeats and to make a full concert of it. This was in Germany in the 1930s. And maybe she wrote the fugue to some extent for Greta, because if there was anybody that could play fugues, it was Greta. But
well, you're definitely right about the peyote etiquette. You never ask anybody about their peyote experiences. It's
right.
It's a private thing.
And the piece ends with, I shouldn't say this because I didn't do it certainly correctly. The left hand plays 16, and the right hand's supposed to play 15 against 16. And I assume that's only something you could do on peyote. But,
all right, I wanted to ask you about Ben Weber, but unfortunately we have to continue the broadcast
yes,
here.
Sure.
We have a limited amount of time. So please, another big hand for Roger Dreyfus.